in nationalism, and that nationalism was bad. And what I responded to was that I do not believe that we should be characterizing Hitler as a nationalist. He was a homicidal, psychopathic maniac that killed his own people. A nationalist would not kill their own people. That is exactly what I was referring to in the clip, and he purposely wanted to give you a cut-up similar to what they do to Donald Trump to create a different narrative. That was unbelievably dishonest, and he did not allow me to respond to it, which is worrisome and should tell you a lot about where people are today in terms of trying to drum up narratives. By the way, I would like to also add that I work for Prager University, which is run by an Orthodox Jew. Not a single Democrat showed up to the embassy opening in Jerusalem. I sat on a plane for 18 hours to make sure that I was there. I'm deeply offended by the insinuation of revealing that clip without the question that was asked of me.
Black people who smoke marijuana, black and white people smoke marijuana at the same rates. Yet a black person is 3 to 4 times more likely to be put in jail for that.
Okay.
And I know the reason why, because the police are in the urban communities. It seems they're police those communities.
Because actually, I had a girlfriend. I had a family member who got a DUI, and I had a girlfriend who got a DUI.
Just to let you know, by just saying what you're saying and standing up here and knowing what's going on through the police brutality, through injustice,
I
all
love
this stuff.
This is so, I love that behind me there's like black people rolling their eyes, but the 2 white guys are yelling at me, telling me that I don't agree with them. This is what I love about white liberals, right? Like they know it's so important for them to sell us our oppression that they'll come up and tell us we're a disgrace. Just say it.
Can you speak for
Well,
all
why
black
don't you
people?
stop speaking for black people? That would be great, okay?
I'm not.
Why don't you let him, who's shaking his head and rolling your eyes, speak about his experience as a black man?
We can have a conversation later.
No, because you're sitting here
talking about white
telling me,
privilege.
and I'm telling you the answer. Economic privilege exists. You're saying why does it disproportionately affect blacks? Because we're disproportionately voting for Democrats, and it's fucking stupid.
Considerable skill is able to engage in the games of derision that are being facilitated by sort of late night talk shows, etc., with aplomb. And if you're interested in a different kind of politics, then I think it is prudent to acknowledge that Donald Trump has been created by inertia in the mainstream, centrism, and the Democratic left's abandonment of the interests of underprivileged people across the board. That's what creates Donald Trump. And until that's addressed meaningfully, in all likelihood, they're going to be more Donald Trump.
I don't want that, General. Now, he's standing there, big, strong guy, and he's got these shoes, but they're loaded with rubber on the bottom.
Loaded with rubber. Like, look at the bit where he talks about the general shoes being loaded with rubber. The bit where he talks about calling up his missus and her sort of taking the piss out of him, saying that all of the news coverage was about you walking down that ramp. Firstly, it appeals to his perspective as a kind of individualistic narcissist. It means that he can attack them on a territory that they've created. I seriously think that if you want to exceed, supersede, overthrow Donald Trump, don't fight on the territory where he can directly respond to personal attacks, because I think he's better at that than they are. And so you're fighting him on his own turf. You know, he's able to personally respond to personal attacks. It would be much more difficult if the debate became about the sort of the social, political, economic reality of America. It would also be a lot easier if there was a political movement that was interested in real change. I wonder if the Democrats, for example, will meaningfully back the Black Lives Matter campaign, if they'll be able to convey the significance of the intentions of that movement in a manner that Trump supporters would recognise is also beneficial to them, that everyone benefits from a fairer, more democratic society. Everyone benefits from a society where the most vulnerable have more access to power, and that it has been a continued game of mainstream politics to pit people on the lower rungs of the social and economic ladders against one another on the basis of religion or class or colour, when in fact the people on those rungs have much more in common with one another than they have with people at the top, on the top rungs of those ladders. But the reality is that whether you vote for Democrat or Republican, you're voting for the interests of powerful people. There is some variation, there are some cosmetic differences, but they are not significant enough. And if you are interested in a different type of government, then you need a different kind of discourse, different kind of policies, different kind of politicians, and a very different approach to Donald Trump. If this is the game that's going to be played in the build-up to the next election, he will win it.
Okay, double check that.
But that's because you're smart.
But this is how everyone should consume the news. But I understand why they don't, because it's like, okay, and then I read a quote. Well, now I have to go listen to the whole. Okay, that was completely taken out of context. Yes. Now they're citing a study. Now I have to go read the fucking study. I end up with go to all the source material.
Yeah.
You have to just go to the source material always. But it'll take me an hour to read one article and figure out like what's actually true in that article.
Yeah.
No one has that time. It's easier to be like, I hate this.
Exactly.
Mad.
Yeah. That's what most people do. They find something that confirms their bias, and then they read only those things that exist in their little echo chamber.
But you should be seeking things that, push against your bias.
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, a friend of mine who happens to be a person.
Houselessness.
Yeah, no, the unhoused.
The unhoused.
And
sounds like a horror movie.
She was asking me about UFOs, and I said my main problem with UFOs is that I want to believe.
Yeah.
My main problem with all this evidence, like it seems real, but the problem is I want to believe.
Right.
And whenever I want something to be real, I go, ooh.
Probably double check that.
Yeah,
you have to.
You mind fuck yourself.
Yeah. That's the right way to. That's how you can avoid making an ass out of yourself online and sharing something that's not real.
Yeah.